The Brooklyn Nets currently hold two players in Cam Thomas and Cam Johnson that could drastically help kind of reshape the playoff race depending on which teams make a trade for the talented young players. Plus, we're going to talk about Dante DiVincenzo and his injury update that could really hurt the Minnesota Timberwolves as they continue to try to find their balance in the Western Conference. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today, y'all. I want to start off talking about the Brooklyn Nets. Of course, it's trade season, so a lot of what we're talking about is trade related. I know. I'd rather focus on a little bit more basketball, which is going to be kind of the soon. Let me know, you guys, if you guys, I can be really analytical. For those that follow my Chicago Bulls podcast, you know, I can get in the weeds of analytics, and that is something that I think I'm going to start doing on this channel a little bit more. You know, I just want to make sure that it's the appetite for it. I want to make sure I'm delivering content for what you guys want. But with that said, we're starting off talking about this, man. Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson, these are two players that the Brooklyn Nets reportedly have on the trading block, and they have different requirements for each one of these guys, what they're looking for. We've heard that the Brooklyn Nets would want a multiple first-round picks or a young player in the first-round pick back in the chance for Cam Johnson. And in Cam Thomas, it seems like they have a similar asking price, but the first-round pick is kind of the focus there. And so right now, these two teams offer a chance for either team, any team that trades for these guys. It could really help change it. And that what we've heard so far, that it is playoff caliber teams that are interested right now in making a move for either one of these guys. We've also heard that, you know, that when it comes down to it, we already know that the Nets are willing to offer most of their roster up when it comes down to it. Cam Thomas is still on a rookie scale deal. Now, there's been some also talk that Cam Thomas may eventually stay with this team. They may not find a trade partner. But when you look at Cam Thomas, a rookie scale deal that he's on, right? He's averaging so far this season 24.7 points per game, 3.6 rebounds, 3.4 assists. He's doing that on 37% shooting overall from three-point line and 44% shooting from three. And Cam Thomas offers the chance for a team to get a young 23-year-old developing scorer. Yes, he undersized at 6'3", 210 pounds. Well, we've seen it. Cam Thomas has that it gene. And if he goes to a team that can develop him further, you can see them getting a young piece that can help them now with some scoring off the bench, but also be a piece that they develop looking going forward. And while this has not been something that's a big-time rumor, I'm not starting anything here. I'm just saying my own personal thoughts. I look at Cam Thomas as somebody who could be a big get for the Golden State Warriors, a team that is still trying to win now, right, in a sense, but still and has already said they don't want to mortgage their future. So if the Golden State Warriors are able to get involved and in talk for a player like a Cam Thomas, he can do the best of both worlds for them, adding another scorer, which they drastically need. His contract, again, on that rookie scale deal, so that can leave them some flexibility to make another move, a la for Nikola Vucevic, which is another rumor deal or whatever else. I tell you what, I know it doesn't do a lot for their defense, but if the Golden State Warriors were to make a series of moves at the trade deadline that netted them Cam Thomas and Nikola Vucevic back in trades, that really does help that team accomplish the best of both worlds. And it is a manageable thing for them. Again, they'd have to entice the Brooklyn Nets with what they have available, and that may mean a Kuminga or something like that, which then raises even more questions than that. But Cam Thomas's contract makes it that they can get and focus on draft picks, whether it be sooner or in the future, without a team needing to match a huge salary, which could be something that could entice a team like the Brooklyn Nets. We've heard them that they could be involved. We've also heard that the Cleveland Cavaliers could be involved as well, which to me, I don't know if that really makes a lot of sense for that team considering where they are, but we know that the Cavs are another team that is definitely looking to improve where and where they can as well. But, you know, with that Cleveland Cavaliers team, they have, it's been rumored that Karis LeVert and a future first could be what they try to offer and pair to get to Cam Thomas into Cleveland. So when you hear things like Golden State, who's actually been more linked to Cam Johnson than Cam Thomas, which we'll talk about here in a second, or the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think that could be something that could help either team drastically in what they're trying to achieve. But then let's flip it and look at the other Cam on this team. Cameron Johnson on this team, averaging 19.5 points per game, 4 rebounds, 2.9 assists. He's doing that on 42% shooting from three, 50% overall from the field as well. And this is a guy who's 28 years old, so a little bit older, even though he's in his 5th or 6th year in the NBA, a little bit older, but in a way higher contract, right? That's the thing. Cam Johnson has a $22 million contract this year, and he has 2 years left at $20 and $22 million respectively on Cam Johnson's contract. So it's a larger of an ask to get Cam Johnson in because you got to match that $20 million. But make no mistake about it, Cam is another player that can drastically help a team if they're trying to look to make a move right now to add to what they already have going on. We've heard the Dallas Mavericks being a team that could be interested. We've heard the Phoenix Suns. We've heard the Golden State Warriors. So we've heard that teams that could be interested in Cam Johnson and the asking price that they have for, reportedly 2 first-round picks and a veteran. That is what they'd want back, or a young player and a first-round pick. So if that's the case, I do think that there are some teams that definitely could be interested. So we heard that the Milwaukee Bucks could be a team that's interested as well. Don't know exactly what they'd be willing to move. I doubt it's going to be Chris Middleton, but we'll see what you have there. But I do think that both these players and what they offer could be some of the best value contracts for teams leading into the trade deadline. And especially because playoff caliber teams will be looking, it could really change the playoff picture a little bit. I'm not saying that they're the moves that would drastically, completely, and utterly turn everything around, but I do think you got to look at it like this. Like last year, the Dallas Mavericks made trades for Daniel Gafford and P.J. Washington. Not to say that they were looked at as horrible players or anything like that, because they weren't. But when you look at it and then look at how it ended up shaking out and how much those players ended up helping the Dallas Mavericks on their run, you really can't put it past anybody on what it could end up being when it's all said and done. So I think that it's something, these are 2 players that I really have a feeling on that they can really help change the direction of some of these teams and what they're looking to accomplish, or what their ceiling is, I guess is a better way to phrase it, in the playoffs. And so, listen, while everybody's talking about the Bradley Bills, the Jimmy Butlers, make no mistake about it, those are, of course, bigger names, bigger targets. They would have bigger shifts if they're moved. Sometimes it is the smaller trades. Sometimes it is the complementary trades that really lead to a team and it changing their direction in the playoffs. And that's what I think we could see here again. Again, I'm not necessarily calling for it to be the end-all, be-all, or the results or anything like that, but I do think that it is something that you gotta kind of look at. You got to kind of look at, and this is something that I can't wait to see which teams make these moves for these guys, because it could end up being a smaller move for a team that isn't necessarily projected to go that far. It could be that one of these playoff teams, like the Denver Nuggets, that have also had some rumored interest in these guys as well, that it does add some firepower that they need leading into that playoff push. But let me hear from you guys on this one down below. You know that Cam Thomas and Cam Johnson are both out on the trade market right now, and there are teams that could end up getting acquired, or players that could end up getting acquired or be moved at the trade deadline. Depending on what team do you see being the best fits for both these guys, and how do you really see them being able to develop and those type of things in their next, especially with Cam Thomas. If the Nets do end up trading Cam Thomas, which again, I came into the season thinking you want to hold on to him, because even if you do plan on tanking or whatever, if you can hold on to Cam Thomas and add him to whoever you draft in this year's draft, that sets you up. That sets you up. So, I think that when you look at that, it's definitely something that, that you would want to try to pair young talent again. Yeah, I know that he's coming off his rookie scale deal, and that's another thing that any team that makes a move for him would definitely have to look at, is that rookie scale deal and what does that next contract look like, especially in the era of the second tax apron. But I think overall, like, Cam Thomas is a player that could help a lot of teams in the NBA. And Cam Johnson's flawed, right? I want to make no mistake about it. Cam Johnson is a flawed player, but what he does well, if you need what he does and what he brings to the table, and you have a better defensive system, you have a point guard that can get him involved, these type of things, Cam Johnson is another player that can drastically help some teams, even with him being a little bit older at 28 years old. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. The movement of either one of those players, who you want to see moved, where you want to see moved, how much do you really think they can help? Let me know all that down below. With that said, I want to get into the news that dropped right before I started recording this, and that's Shams Charania tweeted this. Timberwolves guard Dante DiVincenzo is out indefinitely due to a left big toe injury and will receive an additional opinion. Sources tell ESPN that DiVincenzo's foot has been placed in a boot He was averaging 17.5, 4.7 assists, and 42% on threes as a starter in the last 6 games. The Minnesota Timberwolves are a team that, not that their season has been completely derailed by injuries like a Philadelphia or something like that, but they're a team that just doesn't have that same umph that they've had once before, right? It's clear, it's evident, it's been there. Anybody who's been watching this team, we know that they've taken a step back this year. Now, Dante DiVincenzo is still an acquisition that I really like for that team. Now, I've gone on it. I got videos on the channel talking about it. I look at Jaden McDaniels and his minutes on the court, how they lose his minutes on the court. That is a huge thing, even bigger than the Julius Randle stuff that's out there. But I do look at Dante DiVincenzo as somebody that he was trying to be part of this team, trying to turn some things around. And the Minnesota Timberwolves season has been, I don't think, calling it disappointing may be even a bit of an understatement based off what it is. We've heard a lot from Ant and what he's felt about the starters, again, including himself in that. But the Minnesota Timberwolves sit as 8th right now in the Western Conference at 22-20, right? And that is something that you look at that team, and also they have the 16th easiest schedule in the league remaining throughout the way, meaning that it's really not that easy. It's right in the middle of the pack. Losing a player like Dante DiVincenzo at this point in this, it's going to really hurt. It's going to really hurt. And I think at the end of the day, man, they're going to have to figure it out. They're going to have to, if they really want to try to get this season together, they're going to have to try to figure that out and play the best they can. That's what this season is. That's what it's all about. You got to deal with the adversity, and how you deal with the adversity is telling, right? And Anthony Edwards' frustration, we talked about it yesterday, teams monitoring what could happen in the future with Anthony Edwards. But I think that the Minnesota Timberwolves are a team that need to try to pull it together now to try to win something. Can they? Will they? That's what we do the shows for. And we're going to be here every day talking about things going on around the NBA. But as well, let's round out to a player that some people are saying is having a breakout, and that's Scoot Henderson. The Portland Trailblazers beat, unfortunately, my Chicago Bulls last night, adamantly playing extremely well. You look at him scoring 25 points against that team, and he was asked about his breakout, and he said this: just attack, man. I know who I am. That's all it is. And while that seems simple, there's something to be said about a young player figuring out that they just got to attack. And that's the key thing here. Over the last 4 games for the Portland Trailblazers, he had 39 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, and 8 3-pointers. He had 16 points, 6 assists, then 21 points, 5 rebounds, 11 assists, 3 blocks, and then 25 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2 steals last night against the Chicago Bulls. Cam Thomas is starting to put something together. He's starting to put something together. I said Cam Thomas. Scoot Henderson is starting to put something together. And he was a player that came into the league with some promise. And while that promise doesn't mean that players are always going to hit that, Scoot is a guy that the Portland Trailblazers want to make sure that he's going to be able to ascend. Over the last 5 games, right, where the Portland Trailblazers over those last 5 games haven't necessarily played the best, but 20 points per game he's averaging, 47% from 3, 53% as well from field goal range. He's also averaging almost 7 assists at 6.8 and 4.2 at being a 6'3" point guard out there. Scoot Henderson may be starting to put this thing together. And that's, if you're the Portland Trailblazers, you want that. You drafted him hoping that he was going to be one of the centerpieces of what you were trying to build going forward. And as he continues to ascend and maybe gets to that place that the Portland Trailblazers want him to be at, listen, I'm always rooting for young players to figure it out. And there's something to be said about young players. And like I said, once they hit that zone where they really figure out what they need to do to be impactful and effective. No, right now, does he look like a superstar? No. Does he look like a player that you're going to build your whole entire franchise around? No, not yet. But you can't get there if you're not learning, growing, and understanding where and how to find your rhythm in this league. And Scoot may be one of those players that's starting to figure out how to find their rhythm in this league. It will remain to be seen. We'll see if he actually continues to put it all together and he can put this together and finish this season strong, because he showed a little bit of flashes towards the end of last season. And this season kind of started off where last season started off again. Being inconsistent. I also look at some coaching issues there with Chauncey Billups. Personal thing. Now, everybody's going to agree with me on that. That's perfectly fine. But, as Scoot Henderson continues to figure himself out in this league, I think it'll be fun and interesting to watch where Scoot Henderson finishes this season at, and is to use that as a launching pad in year 3 to maybe finally take that year 3 leap that you expect to see from a lot of players. But as always, you guys can let me know how you feel on everything down below. Make sure you're following the show at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.